All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Movie Mates podcast. I'm back here with my co-host Connor Newton, and this week we're going to be discussing a movie that was my choice this time around, and it was a movie that I hadn't seen before. I don't know if Connor, have you seen it before?
No,
And
no.
it's called Wind River. And some of you may have heard of this movie. I know I've heard of it for years. Like I knew about it for a while. And I always thought
Mm.
like it got pretty good reviews and was like held in like decent regard. So I was always kind of interested in it. It has Elizabeth Olsen and Jeremy Renner. And yeah, so I thought this would be an interesting choice. And Connor, it's not based strictly on a true story, but it's based on like what? It's inspired by true events, right? Is what they say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like loosely based on things that supposedly happened to like the Native American girls or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Which, well, I mean, this it doesn't really have anything to do with the movie itself, like calling it based on true events. But it's
Yeah,
like kind of misleading, I feel like, when it says based on true events, because it makes a person think like, oh, this story actually happened,
yeah,
you know? But then it didn't actually happen. It's just like it's based on women being kidnapped in general. Like,
yeah, yeah.
so I mean, it's fine. Like, it doesn't affect the quality of the movie. It's just kind of bothered that they did that.
It bothers you. Well, I guess that's fair
Yeah.
because I remember Connor and I were talking about this off the air, a little bit ago, and I mentioned him like, "Oh, this is based on a true story," and Connor's like, "Wait, no, it's not actually a true story. It's just inspired by like actual events." And like, so I guess like I fell into the trap, right? I was one of those
Yeah.
people. I thought it was like this is like actually what happened. Like this is kind of loosely like based on a real story, but this story didn't actually occur. Um, but yeah, so I thought this was a really interesting movie, and I think I turned out to be right. I mean, we can go through this, a little bit at a time here, but I enjoyed this movie. But anyway, we can get into the start of this movie, unless Connor, you have any initial thoughts that you wanted to say before
Uh,
we started.
no, only that I heard about this movie the year it came out, or maybe the year after,
Okay.
like in 2018, because my girlfriend and her family watched it and they really liked it. But
Mm,
that was the only time I heard about it,
okay.
pretty much. So yeah.
Okay. Well, they enjoyed it, and I feel like most people did. But anyway, yeah, we can start off by talking on this movie. I don't know, Connor. It started um, kind of abruptly, right? I think the first scene we get is a girl running through the snow, right?
Oh
And
yeah, with like the poem.
and she's running through the snow with no shoes on, and she seems to be looking behind her like something's chasing
Like
her.
she's
And
scared. Yeah.
yeah, and she seems terrified, but we don't see anything, right? We don't see anything like behind her. We don't see what she's running from. We don't see why she's so scared. And then right, she ends up, I think, falling in the snow, right? I think is what
Yeah.
happens, and then
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
gets
Yeah.
up slowly, and then I think she ends up dying, right?
Yeah. I think
So
that was, yeah. Mhm.
that's how the movie started. Which, like, what were you gonna say something?
Well, like going into this movie, like I didn't really know what it was about. So
Yeah.
it was like I didn't know it was like a murder mystery, or
Mm,
like that kind of a movie. I was like,
sure.
well, I knew it was like some sort of like suspense in like a really cold area.
Mm,
Uh, but I didn't know it was gonna be like trying to find out who killed this girl. So the first scene there, I was like, oh wait, is this gonna be like I didn't know if this is gonna be like a person chasing her, or if
mm.
it's like there's some sort of savage animal or something, that's like
Yeah,
causing all
yeah. Same. That's what I
the
was thinking. Because
conflict.
I think right after this happened, right, we get a quick cut to Jeremy Renner's character Corey, who's like sniping a wolf, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure is what happens after this. So like
Hmm.
it kind of adds on piles onto that like that thought that like, oh, maybe she's just running from like a bear, like a wolf or something,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was a bear. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking as well. Because right, like why else would she be running with no shoes in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah, and if she was
right?
running from a person, like wouldn't we be able to see the person like chasing her?
Right?
Like that's what I was thinking.
Like you think she
If it
wouldn't
was an
be that frantic if like they weren't right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. If it was an animal, like maybe she's still running because she knows it can smell her or something.
Yeah. Very true. So it was kind of an interesting start. Like, I mean, nothing is like given away
Yeah.
like at the start, I think, right? Like you're not sure like
Yeah,
why
no.
she's running. And then we get introduced to Jeremy Renner's character, like I said, Corey, who, you know, I guess is some sort of like independent, like ranger of sorts and like helps out with like, you know, killing
he gets
animal.
like,
He hunts animals to like and stuff to
yeah.
keep like people's property and like their animals safe. I think is kind of what he does.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's for like that whole area or like
Yeah,
county or
and
whatever.
he kind of works in conjunction with the police a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah, no, he does, but he's not with the police, right? He's like his own
No.
entity. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So that's kind of like made kind of clear at least pretty quickly. Um,
Hmm.
you know, and we see, I think, right? I think, um,
We see him go
him
to
the
like pick
son.
up his
Oh,
son,
yeah,
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 from his wife, but
yeah. Yep.
who it's kind of obvious that they don't really like, that they're not, well, they're not like
It's kind of, it's
together.
obvious they're not
Yeah.
together, but like they don't seem to like dislike. They don't seem to hate each other at all. I don't think that there's any
No,
like,
no. They
yeah,
don't live together, do they? They live in,
no, I don't think so.
okay, yeah.
I think they live
But
separately.
it's like he just picks up his son because they're gonna have a father-son day together, sort
Yeah,
of, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and then I think he takes his son to uh his grandparents' house, right, which is on an Indian reservation, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because I think he had to do some.
Oh,
He had
because
to
he
take
got
care
a
of some work.
call. Yeah, got a call. He has to like go find an animal that's been killing something,
Hmm.
or just investigate it, I think.
Yeah, he had to investigate because I think an animal took down like a big deer or something, and he had to
Oh
figure out
yeah.
and he had to figure out what like took that down. I think they wanted him to
Yeah.
kill it. I think.
Hmm.
Um, so you know that's kind of what we get, and I think the son complains that his dad's not spending time with them. I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, and I also want to say like,
hmm.
after, so this is when he goes out and he's like
Yeah.
looking for the mountain lion or whatever, and he
Yeah.
finds the body, and then this is like what starts the plot of the film, right?
Sure.
And then like a couple scenes later or whatever, he's like, oh yeah, I'll help you guys because I'm good with tracking. He's like,
Hmm.
tells his son like, I'm gonna do a couple more things for work, and his son's like super sad about it or something. I mean, it's not like in your face his son's sad, but he's like, this is supposed to be our day, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought this was gonna be like a theme throughout the rest of the story, like him and his son,
Yeah, I know, right?
like Dad, you're gonna spend time with me, please, or like he's gonna be like, I have to do this, or, like that.
Yeah.
But then like his son never really showed up again, which like on one hand I was like, that's kind of weird that they kind of like planted that seed early in the film and then it never comes back.
Mm.
But then on the other hand, I'm kind of glad they didn't do that because that's kind of cliche,
It
and it would have
is.
kind of like taken away from the rest of the movie.
But I will say, like, I feel like they didn't know what to do with like part of the beginning of the movie. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they had like some scenes
Yes.
in there where they're like, we don't really know what to put here, so we're just gonna put like Corey has like family strain or stress, right? So that's kind of what they tossed in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I will say the second half of this movie is way stronger than the first half,
I
for
agree. It
sure.
definitely picks up after what, maybe 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes or so.
Yeah,
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 I think because right, because you make a great point. Like the family, the whole idea of like him seemingly not being together with his wife, or at least having some sort of like you know deep rooted disagreement or whatever that caused them not to like live with each other, and then plus like the strain it seems that like his son is him are having
yeah,
because he spends so much time working. Like they put that in there, and it's like okay, like sure, this guy works so much, and he isn't really like communicating or like bonding with his family very much, and then
yeah.
they really don't address that, at least with those two family members for the
No,
rest
they
of the
don't.
movie.
They don't really like. It's not really
Mhm.
addressed as a problem with the family,
Yeah.
because I feel like they used it as a way to kind of demonstrate how his daughter's death affected him. Like he's now disconnected from the other members of his family,
Yes.
sort of.
Sure.
And it's almost like his personal growth in this story is more about he himself like finding peace in his daughter's death rather than reestablishing the connection with his family members.
Hmm.
So like I feel like there were which is like good, it's like interesting and cool, and I think different to have like a deep kind of like character like journey
Yeah.
in like a movie like this. But at
Sure.
the same time it almost felt like his wife and his son were just not real characters. They were just like
It felt like they were.
plot devices for his character.
Yes. Yes. No, no, definitely. Because right,
Yeah.
they only have them in the movie until they're no longer necessary for Corey, right? They're not there for
Yeah.
anything independent like of themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And like, sure, that happens in a lot of movies, but like, you know, I feel like it was kind of, you know, especially looking back in retrospect, right, at this moment, I feel like it's pretty
Yeah.
obvious. Like,
It was just a little bit. It just stood out a little bit more in this movie, I think, than like it maybe does in other movies. Like
I think
sometimes it doesn't even bother you because you don't think about it. You're just so engrossed in like
true. I think
the
it's because
movie.
this
So
movie is just a little bit like it's not a fast-paced movie. Like it's a pretty slow
yeah, it's
pace.
just slow. It is slow.
It's just a pretty slow movie. So I think it's more obvious, right, when there's not like a like bang 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 bang, like, you know, like things happening like in quick succession like later in the movie.
yeah.
I think that might be part of the reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, right. So after this whole family stuff, you're right. He goes to look for the mountain lion, which it was. I think he confirmed it was some sort of lion that killed the
Mhm.
deer. And he ends up finding human footprints, and so obviously he's going to track those to see where that goes. And he ends up finding the girl that we see in the first opening scene, and she's dead. She had been dead for at least, I think, like half a day,
A
right? I
few
think,
hours. Yeah.
yeah,
Like 12
yeah,
hours or so.
12 hours is kind of my guess. Um, and he knew the girl, right? So she's dead. He knew the girl. Her name was Natalie. And
She
we
was
get a
friends with his daughter, basically,
yes, she was friends with Corey's daughter, who had also died.
who had gone missing and never been found. I think. Right? Is that the story with her?
Yeah, it was like she died because no one knew what happened to her, so they just pronounced her dead. Like she
Yeah.
just disappeared. Yeah.
Which I don't know if we know all that information immediately, but
We don't. They're pretty vague about it. Like they're pretty. I mean, and understandably so, right? Corey doesn't really like from the perspective. I feel like a lot of this is from the perspective of Corey.
yeah, he doesn't really want to talk about that.
In
I
the
feel
at
like.
least in the front half of this movie, or the front 2/3 even, and like he doesn't obviously want to talk about that, right? So we
Mhm.
kind of get given that information slowly, and so yeah, we don't really know. I don't know if we know all that right away, but
Yeah,
regardless,
but he definitely like knows who the girl is, which we, it seems like a small town anyways.
it
Like
does. Yeah.
it's like a bunch of different towns surrounding a reservation, so it's like pretty sparsely populated, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's even more impactful because like she was really good friends with his daughter, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's why it means so much.
Mhm.
And as we learn more about what happened to his daughter, right, we begin to learn why Corey is so. I mean, obviously he's going to be involved either way, but he seems very like invested in the
Invested, yeah,
in the
in the
case.
case. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And I think after then is when we meet Elizabeth Olsen's character, right?
We do, we
At that
do,
point.
we do. Yeah. So he finds that. I think he calls in the cops, right? And Elizabeth Olsen, who's an FBI agent, shows up. And her name, Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, is Jane, I believe. Her
Yeah.
character's name, right? And when I first saw her character, I don't know if this is intentional, but they made her look like such like a novice FBI agent. It seemed like
I think it was.
right.
And they also wanted her to be like this kind of like city girl who doesn't really know what she's doing
Like
out.
she's out of her depth, kind of.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
So I thought that was an interesting like angle, I guess, to come at with that. Like I don't necessarily
yeah,
mind it. Like it was kind of neat because it gives them a sort of way, right, to allow the audience to learn what Corey does and how he does it with her, right? Because
true.
he has a really good ability to track animals and obviously humans because you know you can track them in a similar way, at least out in the wilderness. And we got to like learn like what he's looking at on a crime scene or like in a situation. And,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's
through
always
her
helpful to
eyes,
have
kind
a
of.
character who is inexperienced in the
Yes.
ways of like the other main character so that
Yeah.
you can like learn through them and it's like a natural progression of the story rather than it being someone like expositing for no reason.
Yeah.
That's pretty smart, I think.
Yep. No, exactly. So I think I would assume that's at least part of the reason they did that, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's I feel like it's a little bit cliche, but at the same time, I don't really care because
Yeah.
it allowed there to be like good like contrast and like character like relationship between them.
And they
So
didn't make it like extremely obvious, right? It wasn't like she was completely inexperienced in like how to do things at a
yeah,
crime scene because she is in the FBI, right? You have to have some level of
yeah.
intelligence and like
And
reasoning.
I think a lot of that credit goes to Elizabeth Olsen, and she put like a really unique kind of spin on it that made the character feel kind of like she has a chip on her shoulder too, you know, like she's trying to prove
She's out to
something.
prove herself, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think at first, right, I think that they're like, oh man, like what are the feds gonna do? You know, like they don't really,
Mhm.
especially like, I think the chief of police was like, oh, I mean, like whatever, like what are you really gonna do to help here? And like she ended up,
Yeah.
wanting to help and actually like making an effort to do stuff.
Mhm.
But anyway, Connor, I think right after this we get to see what I was just talking about, how like Corey like starts to explain to her and teach her like what he's looking at, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I think they get on like a don't they get on like a little like what is it, like snowmobile, and
Yeah.
they ride away, like go find like her tracks, right? I think.
Mhm.
And so we get to see that whole scene, which is kind of cool. And I think we
And
also
is that
learn.
where she asks him to help her with the investigation, or is that later?
I don't remember if that's there, but if it's not there, it's in like the following scene. Like it's in that same sequence. It's in that same like
Yeah. Yeah.
time, like in that same area um, of the movie. Yes, I think
Yeah.
you're right actually, because I wrote down actually that she wants Corey to help her out, help her find out what happened. Right after
Yeah.
that. So I think it was right after that. I think it might have been around the time, because I think he starts telling her about how he knew this girl and how he knew the girl who died, right? Because I think she might ask him like, why are you helping out on this or
Oh,
something?" And
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
explained to her how he knew Natalie, and explained to us how he knew Natalie. So then
Yeah.
I think that's where she asks him to help her.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we get, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that was all fine. That was
yeah. No, it was it was fine. It was good. It started it started to pick up a little bit there, right? I mean, it
yeah,
was like
yeah.
it started to get a little bit more engaging. At least I feel like. Mm, And
Yeah.
then I think soon after this, Connor, the next scene I remember after this is when we go to what is
Like
it?
the
Oh,
autopsy.
yeah, the morgue, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
We go to the
With
guy
the
who
medical
like the
examiner.
medical examiner gives cause of death, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought this was a pretty good scene because you get to see multiple perspectives, and it really makes sense from both
Yeah.
perspectives in this scene. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about this in particular, but
No, I mean, I thought this was one of the better scenes in the film because
mhm.
it seemed very true to life, but also
Yes.
had like the actual drama of like a movie story too. You know, it's like
Hmm.
he literally, someone's like, this needs to be a murder so I can get help, like investigating. That's what Elizabeth Olsen wants. But the
Yep.
medical examiner is like, I literally can't classify this as a murder because she died of natural causes. You know,
Yep.
like
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I have, I think Connor, what, right here, I said like the medical examiner said, what he said makes sense because he can't list something as the cause of death if it's not actually what actually killed her, right? Because he's
yeah,
like, look,
because
like,
it's
yeah, sorry, you can explain it if you want.
yeah. I mean, like he has no, first of all, like the actual like medical condition that caused her to
Yeah.
die had nothing to do with another person,
Yep.
basically. And then two, even though the conditions, like the special conditions, indicate that she was put into a situation where her death was caused by nature by another person,
Mm.
like that's like a big assumption that he can't make as like a medical person. I feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, look, his job, and it's what he said. My job's not to collect evidence, right? I can't make assumptions on what happened, even if like he's like, look, like we know this was a murder in some way. He's like, look, that's what this is. But he said, I don't have evidence of that on the body. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't report that as the cause of death. And it makes perfect sense, right? I think she
Yeah.
died from fluid in the lungs, right? I think is what
Mm-hmm.
happened. And he had to list whatever that technical term is in the medical field as cause of death. And it makes perfect sense. But Elizabeth Olsen's character, Jane, also makes perfect sense. She's like, look, I need you to list this as like a homicide because I need people to come up here and help me.
Yeah.
But he can't do that, and she's obviously like exasperated about it. Which so I thought this was it was a well done scene.
Yeah.
It was much more
No,
real.
I
It was more realistic than most movies would make it. I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like it's plausible. I mean, I don't know the exact rules of investigations and dead
Yeah,
bodies and things
neither
like
do I.
that, but it felt like something like it felt plausible that this actually happens in real life. Probably not that often, but I feel like there are times when people die where it's like, well, it seems like they died of natural causes, but it might have like been caused by someone putting them in that situation, and you know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
especially in
yeah.
more rural areas. I feel like that's a strong possibility. Not that it's like common or anything,
Sure.
but it felt like plausible.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. That's why that's why I thought it was a well done scene, and I wanted to mention it. But
Yeah.
I think Connor, after this, what happens after this? I think
Well,
that
I think after this they go to the girl's parents' house.
they
I'm pretty
do.
sure.
Yes, you're right. And this was a sad. This was actually sad.
This was very interesting. I
Yeah.
thought. I don't know. Tell me what you thought watching the scene.
I mean, I thought they go inside, right, and they want to talk to them really because I think the primary reason was that she wasn't reported missing.
Hmm.
And so they were like, well, why did they not report their daughter missing, right?
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, I don't know. It was a well done scene because, if correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the father, he was just angry, right? He seemed angry, didn't he? At least at first, towards Jane Elizabeth Olsen's
Well,
character.
because basically she was saying like she was kind of insinuating that you're a bad parent, like
Yeah.
you could have prevented this,
Mhm.
which I mean I have opinions about that, but uh basically he was like, listen, she was an adult, like I trusted her, like who are you to judge me with his
Yeah.
attitude,
Because I just
which is
remember
fair.
and I just remember his frustration and kind of anger towards her, and then I think that they wanted to, and then after that, because it was kind of a heated discussion. Jane wanted to talk to his wife, and she wanted to talk to his wife, and the wife was just like literally just like cutting her arm in like the bedroom. It
Yeah,
was
which
just
I
like,
feel like as a
man,
policeman, I feel like as like law
I know.
enforcement, they should have like interfered with that.
I was like, she was like looks in and then just like closes the door and just like walks out. I was like,
Yeah,
okay. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I think that was her the only thing that I think would make sense there is like her inexperience was showing, and it wasn't that like she didn't know like what to do in that sort of situation. It was like she kind of was just like, all right, like the best way for me to handle this, like, because she just was angry at the husband, and she's like, the best way to handle this is just for me to like give them space. I guess I don't know. Like maybe that was just her
maybe, but at the same
reaction.
time, she had the chief of police from the reservation there with her, and he was like, I wouldn't go in there. Like he was telling her not to. Like he knew
Yeah,
something would be up like that, and he didn't do anything either. And
yeah,
he's
I
like
don't
the
know.
chief of police.
The only thing then I maybe that maybe she has like a history of doing that because like he's known them for a long time.
Maybe, but you would think still that she would be like getting like medical attention for that,
You would think you would think so, right? I was like,
Yeah,
man,
but maybe that's just a consequence of them not having the resources they need in that area or something. I don't know.
it's quite possible. But regardless, it was like, I mean, that was to me, it was like an unexpectedly intense scene. I don't know. I didn't really expect that like
Yeah,
level of intensity.
I don't know if it was really necessary. Like, I'm not sure exactly what it did for the story.
I mean, it didn't necessarily okay. It didn't move anything along like storyline wise, but I think what it was just trying to do is just like hit home to the audience like how much
That
a
family was
traumatizing
hurting.
event like that hurts families, right? And
Yeah,
especially like Native
yeah,
American families, because this whole point of this movie is to shine light onto the fact that like
that's true.
Native
And
American women are just like disappear, right?
I think they also wanted to emphasize in this scene like the culture difference, right? Like a lot of
Oh,
families in America are like, like a lot of families are white and a lot of families are middle class in America, right? I would
mm,
say. And I feel like the general perspective is like being very protective of your children and very like even like once I become an adult, like you're still
yeah.
like very close as like parents and stuff like that. And I feel like they wanted to kind of emphasize like in this culture, like you're not always like all up in your children's business, right? Like this is
Yeah.
just they just live differently. Like they're a little bit more independent. They're a little
Hmm.
bit more like trusting of each other. There's not as much like because it's such a rural place. There's not as much like bad stuff and mischief that people get into. So it's like just naturally, it's more of a community and people trust each other and
Yeah.
they're more mature and stuff like that.
Well,
So
and you talk about how they live different lives. Like this is like a perfect segue into like what we learn here. Like right after this is like this couple, this husband and wife, also have a son
mhm.
who is still alive and lives like I think a couple miles away. They're like, yeah, he lives down the street. Right. And like, but they don't even want to talk to him. Like they've kind of sort of given up on him, right, in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And we learn why in a minute because he lives with a bunch of like
He's a druggie, basically.
low life druggies, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was just interesting, right? And that kind of drives home your point that like, it's just kind of more of a hands off might not be the right word, hands off like style but like kind of like, just like everyone's
It's
just
just
like out of
different.
each other's way. Kind of.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
I do want to say though, I do want to say that uh although it's not necessarily wrong to parent that way, if he had been more like communicative with his daughter and he had been more aware of where she was, like, and who she was interacting with, perhaps he could have taken steps to like make sure she wouldn't have ended up in that situation, I'm not saying like
Yeah.
like he didn't even know like what her boyfriend's name was, like.
Yeah. No, yeah. Here's the thing. Like, we can talk about this now if you want. Like there, you can put blame on like a bunch of different people.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's his fault. I'm just saying
Yeah.
like,
I know.
he could have taken steps, like.
Oh, 100%. But looking back on a situation like that, look, a lot of people like myself, and I'm sure a lot of others would be like, look, I wouldn't make the decisions he made. Like, right, like
Yeah.
letting his daughter date like a whatever that guy was, what, 30 maybe?
Yeah, but he seemed like a really good guy. Like
yeah, but but like the fact that he didn't even know his name, didn't even know like who he was, like it's just, you know what I mean? Like it's almost like, you can see it's neglectful, right? You really can.
But maybe that's just part of like the true story nature, right? Is that like maybe there are just cases where this happens and you don't know anything, right? And you're just stuck in this situation.
But that's the thing. If that is the case, then I think the movie does a really good job highlighting that, because it highlights another problem within like the society or the culture, right? Because, there's less of a chance of something like that happening if your parents are a little bit more involved, like at least understanding like who your daughter's dating or something, right? Like just like you're right. So little things like that. So like,
which is not saying that that they don't have to trust her or they don't have to like treat her as an adult, but just like communication, I feel like,
and just having some level of like awareness of where like what's going on. Yeah, no, 100%. But regardless, it was an intense scene. So it was good to note that. And then going on from this, Connor, we go to the scene where we meet her brother, Natalie's brother, I should say, who lives with the druggies.
Also, before they leave to go there, Corey like approaches the house and has a conversation with the father.
Oh,
he's like, if you find the guy who did this, like, you know what to do. And it's like, I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool and intense, that little conversation they had.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It was a good scene, and he knew what to do, Connor. He knew what to do. Dude,
he knew what to do.
He did. Anyway, we go to the next scene, and I don't know. They try to like knock on the door and talk to them, and like I think they get pepper sprayed at the door, I think.
Oh yeah, it was
the police chief and Jane, I should say, and then and then Corey was just waltzing around the back. I always find it funny in these scenes, in all of these scenes, Connor. Any scene with action, Corey's always just kind of off doing his own thing. Like I'm sure it's like, all right, like Corey's best by himself, and like that's why we're doing that. But it was just kind of funny, right? It was just kind of funny.
And I do want to bring that up later. In this scene, it kind of made sense. I feel like
I know what you're gonna say.
In this scene, it kind of made sense. Like, sure, like, he's off the back, like covering, or he's like not exactly with them. He's not law enforcement, anyways. Like, this isn't part of his job. He's just there to be a tracker, sort of, right? So
yeah. I mean, he's there as like unofficial backup, I guess, of sorts. And let's see, right? I think the scene ends with Elizabeth Olsen. This is a great, actually, moment, by the way. And correct me if I'm wrong, Connor, but I think they get pepper sprayed, right? She still goes inside this house, which, what a dumb decision, first of all. But she's clearing room after room. And as she's doing that,
she can't see.
She rounds a corner. She can barely see. She rounds a corner, and like, it's just like, it's one of those moments where like your life flashes before your eyes, because she rounds a corner and she gets she gets shot at first, right? I think before she gets a shot off, and it goes right over her head. Like I think she's crouched like like not like full height, and it goes right over her head, and then she ends up shooting him, I think.
She just kind of shoots in the general direction because she knows that's where the guy is.
Yeah, and it's just like, man, like I don't know, like it was just intense. because
Yeah, I don't
she was that close to getting killed. Like it was just, man, like you really
Yeah.
went in with being pepper sprayed. It was wow.
That's true.
Yeah, and then Corey takes care of the other two by like taking a shovel and just clocking them when they run out the back.
And one of them is the girl's brother,
Natalie's brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And he's able to tell them the name of her boyfriend. I think that's the only information they get from him, right? Or he works at a drilling site. Yeah.
Mm. And Corey also tells him that his sister died, which was sad, obviously.
Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, and I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first, because my point is going to be.
Well, I was gonna say that. Like, man, I'm pretty sure the kid called Corey out and said he couldn't protect his daughter, and I was like, really? Like,
oh, I don't remember, but that seems like
sure.
he could have.
I think he was like angry, and he just he said that in out of anger.
Oh, he said that later, like in the evening when he was talking to him in the truck when
it was just
the two of them.
Yeah, because they were talking. It wasn't in the initial.
Oh, wait, yeah, because that's how he got the information was in the truck.
Yeah. I was just like, man, and
okay. Hold on. Before that, though, like there was the initial conversation where he gets him down with the shovel, and then he's like, listen, your sister's dead. And then the secondary conversation, which is a couple hours later, when they have more law enforcement there, and he's talking to him in the truck, right?
Yeah.
But in between those two scenes, I'm pretty sure Corey follows these tracks up into the hills a little bit and finds a dead body, right?
Mm.
And that's where he finds the boyfriend's dead body, which they don't know.
That is exactly. That's what happened.
Okay, but why are there tracks from the druggie house to the dead body?
The only explanation is that to get to where they put the body, they have the drill site, druggie house, where they put the body. That's the only possible explanation. Right? That has to be the only possible explanation.
Dude, I guess.
That they pass right through.
But I was, when I was watching it though, I was like, okay, but why? Would these guys know something about that, or why is it at the druggie house? It just doesn't make sense to me. It just seems very convenient that he happened to discover the body while they were at the.
Yeah, I suppose it was definitely convenient, but it was another. What it was another outlet for the movie to show Corey's intuition, or not intuition.
I guess, dude. But it didn't have any connection to the brother or the druggies at all, and somehow there's tracks to their.
It didn't, but for a second you're like, man, did these guys kill someone? What?
Yeah.
Right.
But they never explain it too, and that just kind of bothered me for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's true. I mean, they never make it clear where everything is in terms of direction. It would only make sense if we got to see a map and it was drill site. Right, yeah. Druggie house where they put the body. That's the only way, right? But why would they take? I don't know.
Dude, I don't know.
But you're right. That's definitely kind of weird, right? That has to be the only real explanation. I'd have to go back and watch to see if they said anything, but I don't remember, and I didn't write anything down other than that they did find a dead body out, on.
Yeah, and that was the boyfriend's body, right?
Yeah, it was the boyfriend's body, Natalie's boyfriend. And his name was Matt, by the way. So that was Matt's body, out there. And let's see. I think Connor, after this, they go investigate. They find that body, right? And then after this was a really good scene. It was another emotional scene. I think this might have been one of the best scenes in the movie, in my opinion. Yes. He's talking with Jane, Corey is, and she's at his house. They're just talking, and he ends up telling her the story of what happened to his daughter, and he ends up telling her the whole story, how basically it ends with his daughter just kind of disappearing, seemingly dying out in the middle of nowhere, and no one knows what happened to her, no one knows how she died, and Corey wasn't able to solve it. He wasn't able to figure it out, and so now Jane knows 100% why he's so gung-ho about solving this murder, really solving this death of this girl, Natalie. And I thought it was really good. Both actors did a great job with their emotions in this scene. I feel it was
one of the scenes that was slower, that didn't feel like filler. I feel like
it was Hmm.
Yeah, like scenes at the beginning of the movie were kind of slow, and they kind of felt like, okay, we're like, let's pick it up. But this one didn't really feel like that to me, you know?
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. I agree with that. This was definitely not filler. This was one of the best. This is I mean I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie. This was definitely, in my opinion, the best scene, best non-action sequence in the film. I feel like.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And also, if I feel like it kind of solidified the bond between these two characters more too, right? Like, and it was
mm,
even it's like a male and a female bond, but you know, in most movies, that's like
it-
more romantic,
yes,
you
I was
know?
gonna say the same thing. Actually, it's funny you say that because I was like, when I was watching this, I'm like, all right, like that. I wouldn't be surprised if like they have like a romantic connection of some sort, after the scene. But they end up just being friends and like kind of just being more bonded and like over this case and over everything that had
Hmm.
gone on. So like I thought that was, I mean, credit to the movie for not going in like a cliche direction, I suppose, right? Like it was,
Yeah. Well, that's not what it's about, and I think
yeah,
that
they
that
didn't like pull
actually,
away from the main story. No,
yeah, and also it's like it was kind of cool to see that different take too.
I know, yeah, exactly. It's unique, and I think it was neat seeing that.
Yeah.
But Connor, after this, we get to. I think this is the scene that you wanted to that you wanted to talk about in regards to Corey's positioning. Let's
Oh
just say.
my gosh,
But we go to
dude.
the scene, and they decide the police and Jane, the FBI, and Corey decide to go to the drill site to investigate kind of Matt and where he is or what happened to him.
Yeah.
And they meet the security guys. Our security guys. I don't know if they're security guys, but
Yeah.
uh, they meet the people that work at the drill site.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey, have you guys seen Matt?" And they're like, "No, he has been around for a couple of days. Like, do you guys know where he is?" Like,
Yeah, that I wrote down like they don't know. I'm like they're kind of fishy because I don't even know like that Matt's dead, or so they claim, right?
yeah. And they
Um,
have bruises on their faces, bro.
I was like, okay, yeah. And let's see. I think during this time they cut back between this and Corey on the mountain by himself, and Corey I think not finds the lion and the cubs, which like
Was he
okay.
looking for them? Was he like,
No, I don't think so. I think he's trying to get into position because then after this, he finds tire tracks that lead to the mountain, which those tire tracks, Connor, are the tire tracks that I think ended up leading to that, like the sled tracks to
are
where Matt's
they
body
like,
was.
because they like, why would it go up into the, I don't know, bro.
That has to
Like
be
up
what
to
it
the
is.
mountain lion den, I guess, but it was just like, oh, now he realizes that they're the ones who killed Matt because like,
The tracks go up there. Yeah.
yeah,
And it makes
but
sense if it's the same direction that the other tracks were. Like
I
that's
guess, but why does it go
confirmation, right?
down? Why does it go past the druggie house? Number one. Number two, was he going up there to get into position? And if he was, why would he be going up there to get into position if he didn't already suspect that they were the ones who had done it? And number two, if he wasn't going up in there to get into position, like if it was just going up to find the lions, because he was like, might as well find the lions right now,
There's no way. There's no way.
dude. Then like what a coincidence that he happened to see the tracks. Like either way, it's just kind of weird. Like I don't know. That was my biggest problem with the movie was like
Hmm.
these just coincidences that kept happening, you know.
Well, I the lion and her cubs thing like wasn't even like there was no actual point to it. It was just kind of like it was kind of funny. I don't know. I don't know why they did it, but it was just kind of like it was just kind of a coincidence. Like the lion and cubs were just there. I don't know.
I
Um,
guess.
yeah, that seemed weird to me. I don't. There was no point to that other than like he gets to like kind of like smirk when he sees them because it's like, well, I was originally gonna look for you. Now I'm looking for like actual people. Like it was just I don't know. It was kind of weird.
Did he kill him? I think he did kill them, right?
I don't think so. I
Because he
didn't.
said, didn't he say like, "Oh, your mom just signed your death warrants" or something like that? I don't know.
Did he? I thought he was like gonna like go over the top of their like nest thing or whatever.
Oh,
So that's why
well,
he.
but
I
he
thought.
has to kill. He's supposed to kill them anyways, right? Like,
Yeah, true. Maybe he did. I honestly don't know. He might have. I didn't really care honestly. Um, but
yeah. I
regardless,
cared. I cared up until that point. You know what I was thinking to myself? Like for a lot of the movie, I was like, "What about the mountain lion?" I
no
was like,
way.
"No." I was thinking that. I was like, literally, like that's his job. Is he just gonna forget about that? Like, are they just gonna ignore that? That's what he's being paid to like take care of right now. Like,
Wow.
Not that I cared about it in terms of the plot. I cared about it in terms of like, are we just supposed to forget about that as an audience? Like, are we supposed to pretend like that wouldn't actually be something that he has to deal with in real life if the story, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like, I just wanted them to address it. Basically.
I suppose that's fair. It was just kind of weird in the way they addressed it, right? Like, did they address it to the way you wanted?
I guess, but why would that happen then? Like, just
I don't know. It was so funny.
I just wanted them to have a quick conversation about that, like him and the police chief, just like, hey, like, we'll deal with the mountain lions after, or like, hey, like, I put someone else on this, you know, or hey, like, I found someone else already killed them, like that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But after this, it's a very tense scene because we have these guys who work at the drill site. We have the police and Jane, and I think it all gets the tension kind of explodes when these people working at the drill site mentioned that they heard Natalie was dead, and one of them called them out on it, like that was never public information. We only said that over the radio, like the police radio or something. And they're like, and it's like, well, how would you know that happened? Like, how would you know that she's dead? And like, you know, that it was just reported recently. And so like they kind of caught them in that. And I think everyone pulled guns on each other. And then everyone slowly was like, calm down, blah, and they all eventually calmed down. And then I think after this, we get Jane knocking on the door of the trailer because there's one guy inside the trailer that she wants to talk to. Because I think he was like the roommate to Matt.
And I don't have anything to say about that scene where they all pulled guns on each other, except for I really liked it. And it was very well done.
It was very well done. This movie, because it was slower, I feel like this was part of it. Or also just the way it was done in the acting. But like these scenes that were tense were like you could feel the tension, I feel like. Especially in this scene.
Well, also at that point, I feel like they should have been like more prepared for a fight to break out. Because number one,
you don't think they were very prepared?
Information. Well, she's just like gets shotgunned in the chest, bro. Like,
okay, that was later. Okay, that was after she knocked on the door. And man, wow, did she get absolutely clocked. But anyway.
Okay, but first of all, she knocks on the door, and then we get an amazing transition. By the way,
I was gonna say that. Yeah. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Transition to the flashback. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
I agree.
And it's Natalie and Matt basically hanging out in his trailer.
Yep.
Like 3 days earlier.
Yeah, and you know, we get to see all of this, and you know, they seem really nice together from what we see. He seems like a nice guy, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, they talk about where they want to live together. They want to get out of Wyoming, basically.
They should. But you know, they talk about that, blah, 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 and then you know, we get to see the whole sequence of what happened, and basically, you know, I don't want to expedite this too much, but basically what happens is, you know, they're drunk, at least especially the roommate guy. He's drunk. They get back to the trailer. Matt's roommate.
And he's like harassing.
And he's harassing
them,
Natalie.
basically.
Natalie especially.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's
Matt stands up though pretty significantly for her. And he's asking the leader of the team too to like get this guy under control. He's like looking for support.
And they don't really give it to him very much. Like they're just like, knock it off. Like, you know, like they don't really help him out very much. And that was so strange to me, Connor. I wanted, like, why did every single person that came back with the roommate, why did they all back that guy and not Matt? I don't understand why they all started just beating up Matt. Like, what in the world?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It was weird to me.
I don't know. My only thought on that is that maybe they were just jealous of Matt because he had a girl and they didn't.
I suppose.
And also maybe they felt like, because like, oh, everybody else is backing him up, so I'm going to back up this guy too because I want to be part of the group. You know, I don't know.
I
But
suppose, right?
I
It
feel
was
like
kind of weird.
I would not have backed like Pete up because dude, he was being awful. Like I wouldn't even
I
be friends with
know.
him normally, you
I
know?
know. That's what I'm saying. Like he was so rude and just so terrible. He just
Yeah.
was. Like he just, and I'm sure we caught him in his worst moment, but that's a bad worst moment to have. Like man,
Yeah, true. And
like
he like pulls down her
yeah,
pants and then
he raped the girl, and then like
well,
she
first of all, like he pulls down
yeah
her pants and then
yeah
that's when Matt starts punching
Matt
him
got really
basically.
mad, and
So
then Matt gets knocked out.
maybe they yeah, maybe they retaliated because Matt was the one who started the violence. Maybe
I
that's
mean
why they
man, I mean man,
I don't know.
I suppose, but like that's I was disappointing. But you know that's how it happened, and then Matt got knocked out, and then he eventually he woke back up and started fighting back, and then she ran.
Yeah, well, yeah, because Pete was obviously violating her further.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And
So,
so
and they were all just standing by too. Like,
I know what I'm saying. I was like, really? Like they're just right there. It was just
yeah,
man, that was terrible. That was terrible. And then
yeah.
she leaves, and her boyfriend, I guess, ends up dying. Not maybe not there, but like soon.
They
Like
beat him to
she
death.
basically
Yeah,
assumed he was gonna die. They didn't need to beat him to death. That's not like so extreme. Like man, like what? And then
yeah,
she left without shoes. So it was like she was just kind of done for. And you know,
yeah,
I suppose it makes sense if she leaves that moment frantically without shoes. She can't. She knows she can't very well go back into the trailer and look for shoes. You know, like
yeah.
she'll get absolutely just like
I
it'd
don't
be
know.
horrible.
I feel like that's a reasonable choice to make in that situation. Not that it's the most rational, but I feel like it's understandable that someone would make that choice. You know?
Yeah, and it's also understandable that like she would continue on without shoes because like she felt like that was like her only choice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I didn't mind like the logic behind that at all. I thought that was fine.
Hmm.
Yeah, but this was just like a tragic. It was just a tragic scene to watch, right? And so we get that background, which was great. They did this was really well done. I thought by those by the actors in that scene. It was like
Hmm.
I felt like I cared about what happened. And then after this, we cut back to Jane, and she gets absolutely popped by that shotgun. The door flies off, and she gets shotgunned, and
Dude,
I thought she was dead.
there's even if she was wearing a bulletproof vest, bro, like a
From that
shotgun
close,
from that close, yeah,
I know.
like that would have shattered all her ribs.
I think it did.
Like she wouldn't really be able to even crawl under
Breathe,
the
even.
yeah, she wouldn't be able to breathe or crawl under the thing like she did, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I know. I thought it was a miracle that she survived. I thought, I thought she was gonna die at the end there. I thought when Corey went to go kill that other guy, I thought that she was gonna
Yeah.
die, but she ended up
Dude,
surviving.
it's the
Luckily.
same thing as someone like taking like is someone swinging a huge like metal rod into your chest that's like this thick, you know?
Yeah. Granted, it was through a door. That's the only saving grace.
Yeah. It
Like,
was
not that
through
a door
the-
can stop shotgun bullets, but like it can mute it like a little bit. Plus the bulletproof
Yeah.
vest, like maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that's the only thing that might be going in your favor. But this is what you want to talk about, right? Because this scene, she gets popped, everyone gets into a firefight, and Corey takes his good old time getting into position. He takes a while to get that sniper fire ready to go. I think he waits till there's only like a handful of people left on the
Yeah.
on his side before he
Yeah.
starts sniping them.
Dude, and also like how did three of like the oil drill people survive and like none of the FBI or like and law enforcement people survive except for Elizabeth Olsen?
I don't know. Because they were caught off guard and the other people were ready to go. Like they knew what was going to
Yeah.
happen there. That's the only thing.
I guess
the
so.
element of surprise, I think, in a situation like that. I think the element of surprise plays a bigger role than like we want to give it credit for.
That might be true. And then also they decide not to kill Elizabeth Olsen, maybe because she was a girl, but he just like drags her off to the side or something.
Yeah, I think they thought she was going to die at first, and then like she was kind of just laying there, like moving around, and then the guy like
Was she
started-
firing her gun too? I don't remember if she was.
Maybe not when he first dragged. She definitely did later on.
Yeah.
She definitely did later on because I remember her shooting it underneath the trailer.
Oh yeah.
I think she missed her shots, and then
Oh, I think she hit Pete once when he was fleeing,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, because then Corey came and then like he helped her out, and then she and then Pete just kind of got away a little bit.
Yeah. It was a cool action scene, I thought. I
Yeah,
guess Corey did take a while to get into
he
position.
did. I was
But
like, man, come on. I was like, better late than never, but
yeah,
sheesh.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe if he was super far away, he had to really take his time to maybe actually set up his like gun completely
I
or
suppose.
something. I don't know.
No, it makes sense, but I thought he was there for long, like pretty long. So I was like, how are you not prepared
Yeah,
for
I
this?
mean, it was like a minute, right? Like a full minute at
Hmm.
least.
Yeah,
So
but regardless, I thought Elizabeth Olsen or Jane was gonna die, and I was like, man, can we not have her die? Like, so many people just died. Like, I don't want her to die too. Like, I don't know. I just didn't want. I just didn't want her to die, and I thought she was going to. Especially when he left her to go find Pete up on that mountain. And Connor, we can talk about that scene real quick. Like Pete on that mountainside, getting caught by Corey. Um,
I like
I,
that scene.
I mean, I thought this was a well done scene. It was kind of just like poetic justice. Is basically what
It
it
was a little
was.
bit predictable though, like admittedly, when he's like when he didn't have his boots on, you're like, okay, I know what's gonna happen here, you know?
Yeah, I will say it was pretty pathetic. I literally wrote down pathetic because Pete went like maybe like what 100 feet. Like he didn't go far.
Dude, true. He must have not been very fit at all.
To be
Like
fair, he
because
was shot. To be fair,
yeah, but also like yeah, he was shot, but his lungs gave out so fast,
I
you
know,
know?
I know. The only thing is like maybe he wasn't born up in the cold, so he wasn't used to the
Yeah,
cold
that's
air.
true. Also, they climbed up to the top of the
They
mountain
did,
as well.
so it was a little bit thinner
So,
air. Yeah.
mhm.
Um, because man, that was a brutal way to go. Brutal way to go. But it was poetic justice. It was kind of
Yeah.
sweet revenge. And
Yep. I didn't mind that he killed someone off the books there in that.
yeah,
Like it
I didn't
was
mind.
like,
I don't think anyone really minded. And the police chief was dead. So I mean, what was he gonna do about it? Like the police
dude,
chief
the poor police
died.
chief, bro. Oh my
I
god.
know. Because he initially survived with Elizabeth Olsen. I think he went to get his gun and then they shot him in the head and he died.
Uh,
I'm pretty sure is how that worked. Um, But Connor, we're almost done with this movie. There's only 2 scenes left, and I love this scene with Jane. She ended up surviving in the hospital,
yeah,
and it was just like it was an emotional scene. I don't know, like he was just what I got from it is like Corey's like didn't want her to stay in a place where he wanted her to stay in a place like where they are. He's like, don't stay in a place like this, And he was just consoling her and being nice to her. I thought it was a good scene. I don't
yeah.
know.
He was saying that like she was really tough and like
Hmm.
she she was like really, I don't know, she was like a trooper basically,
Mm.
and
And he wanted her
he
to get
did
out of Wyoming.
yeah, and he was like, you did a great job like with this case, but now you should go do like bigger, better stuff,
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah, so I thought that was a good scene. It was decent, like it was decent closure. Like it was like
Yeah,
you
yeah, it was
know,
fine. It was good.
yeah, it was pretty solid. And then I don't know, we get one last scene, Connor, and it was just kind of Corey going back to the father of Natalie, and he told him that he took care of the guy that basically got Natalie killed,
Yeah,
and I don't know, they just kind of sat there in peace, right? That's kind of how it ended. They just sat there.
yeah.
Um, I was
Mhm.
glad that the wife didn't like kill herself or anything. She was just sleeping. That made me happy. I thought he was gonna go in there and she was gonna be dead. I was like, man, please don't have
Dude,
that happen.
oh my
And
gosh.
but she was fine. So I was like, okay, good.
Yeah, yeah,
But then that's how it ended. They just kind of ended, I think, sitting, staring off into the wilderness, the distance. And I
yeah,
don't know. That was it.
yeah. It was a good ending. Like I said, the second half of the movie was a lot more engaging for me.
Yes.
First half was. Um, yeah,
Yeah. I don't know if you have any, just kind of overall thoughts on like the
yeah,
overall
yeah,
movie.
yeah. Like I just said, second half was really, really good. First half was okay. It wasn't bad or anything. It just
Yeah.
it took a little bit. The scenes were kind of slow. I was kind of like, okay, these characters didn't end up really mattering. Some of them, uh, and the other things that I didn't really like were some of the coincidences, like the fact that he found the tracks by the Druggy's house. Um, oh, I also just read online that it says that he retraced the tracks from where the corpse was found back to the drilling camp. So that's what he was doing. He wasn't like trying to get in position. he went back to like where they found the corpse and then traced the tracks all the way back.
Oh, I see. So there. So
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
and then found the mountain lions like somehow along there. Okay, whatever. But that's still
You found them along the
that's
way.
still two coincidences: the mountain lions and then also finding the tracks in the first place. Also,
True.
like if they when they took Matt's body out there, it was either the night of or like the day after, I'm sure, and the tracks are like still there after a couple days, like
Hmm.
I guess.
I
But
was thinking
wasn't
like,
there
man,
like
it hadn't snowed in a few days. Like, that's
but
kind
there
of
was like a
unlucky.
big storm like the first day that they found the body. When they found the girl's body, there was a big storm. So they must have taken him out after that. So they had the dead body in the trailer for like 18 hours or something like that.
I'm sure there was an initial panic of like, what do we do? You know.
I guess. But like still like they're like, all right, let's go to sleep. We'll deal with it in the morning. Like
Let's just we'll stash this underneath.
yeah.
We'll stash it in the freezer. We'll take
Yeah.
care of it tomorrow.
But
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't think about it too much, it's kind of okay. Like it's fine. It doesn't really matter.
Sure.
What does matter to me is the fact that I was just so confused about what Corey was doing half the time. Like I literally had to read up on it afterwards to figure out what exactly he was doing some of the time, like when he was off on
Really?
his own. Yeah, I was like, because I didn't really like when he's off on his own, like I didn't understand what he was doing. Like, and you obviously didn't get it either. Like you thought that he was trying to get in position for a potential fight, but apparently he was retracing the tracks, which I didn't feel was very
Well,
obvious to the viewer.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. But there were really a lot of emotional scenes, like the ending scene and then also the scene where he tells Jane about his daughter. There were a couple of good action or suspense scenes. Like the flashback scene was really good. All the scenes at the drilling site were really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this movie has a lot of really good moments and a lot of really different aspects to it that I really enjoyed. But it was just kind of slow, and there were just a couple coincidences that just bothered me when I was watching the film, you know. So for a rating, I'd probably give it around an 83%.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay. Interesting. For me, this is a movie of my choice, and I had already seen part of the reason I wanted to watch it is because I had seen like part of one scene where Corey or Jeremy Renner was like sniping people. So I was like, wow, this looks kind of like a cool movie. And so that's kind of initially why I had always been interested in it. And I don't know, I wasn't disappointed in the movie that I chose. I thought that it was, look, slow movies, a lot of people have a hard time with them. I'm included. I generally have a tough time sitting through movies that don't have a lot of like go, 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 like when there's a lot of just downtime in a way. And I didn't really feel disengaged from this movie. The only time I was kind of disengaged was in that first 40 minutes. There were a handful of scenes where I was like, all right, like, he's
40
bonding with
minutes
this.
is a big percentage
Well,
of
no,
the
not that whole
movie.
time, but like, there were scenes
Oh,
within that
yeah.
40 minutes that I was like,
Gotcha.
like I don't really care that he's showing his son like what he like how he's like making bullets, like he's just talking to his son like
Yeah.
that. Okay, that's cool, that's great, I guess, but I didn't really care. Point being, I didn't have that feeling very much in this movie, which like I was kind of surprised about because I'm not generally one to be okay with like slow pacing.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the emotion in a lot of these scenes. You pointed that out. I'm going to point it out again as well. I think that they did a good job, showing the emotion and playing it within character. Like, for example, Corey, like you could tell, like he was very passive. He didn't like to demonstrate his emotions like outwardly very much. Like he would
Mm-hmm.
kind of just try to like keep it in and like kind of not really show that much, outwardly emotion. So, when you could see him kind of like fighting to like keep it contained, like when he was talking about his daughter, specifically, like I thought that was really, really well done. And
Yeah.
I like the action sequences because they weren't too super prevalent. And like I said, the tension within a lot of those action sequences, what few of them there were, like it was palpable. I liked that. But I will say, I mean, there are a few things that like, if you really try, it's no Westworld TV show. You can't deduce everything, from a super intellectual standpoint. Like it's, you can find a more logical way to do something, or a more logical explanation for something than like what they tried to do in this movie. So like, some of their decisions weren't the smartest. Like you're right. A few coincidences, like the mountain lion thing was kind of pointless in my opinion. Like I didn't really like, why did you show that if like nothing's gonna come of it? But I don't know. I enjoyed myself. I like that it's loosely based on true events. Like I think that's like it's neat. It's a good like it's something good that they're calling out, right? They're bringing to light something that like otherwise wouldn't really be brought up. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was neat. And it wasn't too long, right? I think it was a hair under 2 hours. It really wasn't too long, and they didn't drag it out when they didn't need to. I don't think like there weren't, other than those scenes with like his family at the beginning, there weren't any unnecessary scenes. So I didn't think they dragged it out too much. And so, all in all, I think it was a solid movie. I was going to give it an 87, in the high B's, because I just, outside of those couple slow scenes in the beginning, there was nothing to me that was, there was nothing to me that like was that bad.
Dude, you were amazed at my 83. We're only 4% difference.
I suppose, but in my head, I think of 87 and I think of 83, and they just feel so different. I don't know. Maybe it's because
that's
I've been
the borderline between like approval and disapproval. No.
Well, maybe I've been in too much school, but like 83 feels so different from 87. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we really went that different. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it was just because a lot of the storytelling was lost in the slow pace combined with the constantly white scenery and the constant visual storytelling, which I love visual storytelling, and that's a part of like films and stuff like that. But I did want a little bit more of a verbal kind of explanation from Jeremy Renner's character to Elizabeth Olsen's character to kind of keep me as an audience member updated, because sometimes they would show us things on screen that he was doing that I didn't quite understand, or like I didn't understand exactly where he was because all that landscape looks the same, or like which tracks he was following, because like it just kind of all blurred together for me by the time I got to like the second half of the movie, because a lot of it just looks the same and there wasn't a ton of like verbal explanation. Maybe I'm just dumb like audience member or something, but
well, sorry, finish what you're gonna say. I'm sorry,
but I just maybe if I watched it again, I would catch more things and it would be more clear to me. It was just a little bit confusing as a first time watcher to kind of understand how they got to the conclusions that they got to based off of the information that they had.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like I was that confused, but maybe I was. I mean, I feel like...
Or maybe it was... Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just going to say that maybe it felt more confusing to me than I felt it should have been, because ultimately it wasn't that complicated of a case or a situation, but I felt like they made it out to be very complicated.
Here's the thing.
At the beginning.
Yeah, but here's why I think this is a good thing, actually, and I'll make this quick. But I think it's because we get to see it from the perspective of someone who knows nothing about this case going in. All you see is the body, and you don't know anything, right? And how do you build a foundation for how to learn something? We see what Corey did. He gathered like clues and facts and the sort. And while it wasn't that, it really wasn't a complicated like A to B kind of jump from like her dying to like who killed her and what caused her to die. It was pretty easy to figure out once you knew what happened. But when you knew nothing, it was like, okay, like I don't know how she died.
I guess that's true. Yeah, but then I still came up with questions like, oh, how was he able to track those tracks back there? Why is he tracking these tracks right now? These seem like mountain lion tracks. What? I don't understand.
Connor's all bamboozled by these Corey's tracker abilities.
No, yeah, because at the beginning of the movie, he's like, oh, like we can only track her footsteps back this far because she ran 6 miles and there's been like snowstorm. Oh, but now I found these tracks somehow.
Well, because those tracks weren't footsteps.
And I can track them all the way back to to their source after like 3 days or something like that. I don't know.
Oh man. I'm not gonna. I mean, I won't keep arguing with this or talk. Kind of.
I mean, obviously, I don't think it's a bad movie. I just wanted some more things, and
you just want a little more clarity, right? Like on what exactly is going on.
Yeah. Like I don't want to have to investigate it afterwards. Like I should get it all from the movie. You don't want to. Obviously, for you didn't have to look it up, and you were kind of satisfied with what you had. But I don't know. We might just have different standards of what we would like in a movie like this, you know?
Yes, that's definitely fair. Yeah, like you bring up some really good points, and there's definitely like some things that could be clarified or explained further. But that's that's the issue when you leave things up to the viewer, kind like when they don't give you clarification. Like a lot of times,
Yeah.
viewers like minds can run wild on certain like speculative
Yeah,
things,
that's
right?
true.
So
And you've got to like make those choices. Like, what do
yeah,
I want to say to the audience versus what I want to show to them, and that kind of stuff.
yep, exactly.
They did a very good job. So there's that.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you. But
And you did a good job choosing the film.
thank you. That's all I needed to hear. That's all I needed to hear. But Connor, I think that just about does it. I think that this was a solid film, solid podcast episode, and I don't know. I hope everyone enjoyed the movie and the episode, and I think that Connor will be back with a movie of your choice. Right, Connor's finally gonna get to choose. I know there's a lot of different requests from a lot of different people that Connor's gonna have to choose from. Maybe he chooses one of his own. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
But we will be back next Thursday with an episode with a movie of Connor's choice. And with that, we'll wrap this episode up. I hope everyone enjoyed, and we will be back next week.
Thanks.